Michael Hudak is from our Fort Myers, Florida affiliate. He joins us now. So listen, Michael, you are down there on the ground in the search area. We heard that, part of the reason why some of the items that were discovered recently perhaps were not discovered in the past is because the area was underwater. We know that, Florida can be a little swampy. Can you give us an idea of just what the search area is like and what it's like on the ground right now?
It is a swampy marsh ground, and it has been that way since it was made. 25,000 acres in the Carlton Reserve where this search was initially to begin. Now we're at the Myakkahatchee Reserve and Park where we are right now. And yes, it was underwater. A lot of this area of interest was underwater for quite some time. The area right now is active. It was as active as around 5:47 this morning when canine units first began entering the premises and getting their way into the park past the police tape that you see behind me right now. Since that point at around 5:47 this morning, there have been dozens of law enforcement agencies and vehicles, most of them undercover, making their way into this area. It is still an active and ongoing investigation. We have not been able to make our way past this point, but it is an area of Florida that continues to be swampy. It continues to be humid even into the September and October months. So the demographic and the location of where we are is extremely important as well.
So, Michael, as we saw in Drika Duncan's piece there, I think a lot of people are sort of scratching their heads and wondering how it was that Brian Laundrie's father could simply enter into this area and coincidentally find this bag, this bag that he discovered when you had professional investigators, including the FBI, on the ground. And I understand that it may have been a swampy or even flooded area prior to this, but it does sort of boggle the mind. What are you hearing?
It does boggle the mind, and it is ironic. It's not like it was the second or third or fourth day that the Laundries, Chris and Roberta, Brian's parents, had volunteered to come out here. It was literally the first day that they had volunteered to come out here, Vlad, in about 6 or 7 hours after they had first come out here. It certainly is ironic. Some say it in this area, the neighbors that live around here say it is a bit suspicious. But as of right now, this is something that has been going on for quite a while. There has been nothing but silence coming from that home and some suspicious activity that we have seen. We were live outside of that house around September 13th and 14th when Brian's parents had left their driveway in their red truck and actually come to the Carlton Reserve to assist in that search. They then went back home. They had not been to the reserve to aid in the search since that point. I actually just got off the phone with Steve Bertolino, Brian Laundrie's family's attorney, and he said that Chris and Roberta suggested to him on Tuesday night that they wanted to be out there fresh and bright and early in the morning on Wednesday to assist in this search, and that's exactly what happened. And really, as I mentioned, just a couple of hours later, they were able to find those remains. It is a bit peculiar and ironic that it happened with the timeline that it did.
So in terms of the human remains and the location of Brian Laundrie's backpack and notebook, were they found in the same area? And do we have an idea of how long it'll take to identify those remains?
We have not gotten confirmation of the proximity of the human remains to Brian Laundrie's belongings. We have heard from Steve Bertolino, Brian Laundrie's family's attorney, that they were found in pretty close proximity to each other. The medical examiner saying to us yesterday that it could take up to 48 hours to find and confirm the actual identity of these human remains, and that really is like the best case scenario that they are hoping for right now if they are able to obtain a significant amount of DNA from those suspected human remains. They really haven't even called it human remains, suspected human remains at this time, because you have to imagine it has been out here for some time. We also have to keep in mind that Gabby Petito's suspected human remains at the time, they were properly identified within 24 to 48 hours after they were originally found. And those human remains, unfortunately, and as difficult as it is to even fathom it, they were outside in the wilderness out west for some time as well. So in a interesting way, the medical examiner is hoping for a similar connection and correlation between how those remains of Gabby Petito were found and identified and how these remains of someone that we do not know can be identified as quickly as possible.
And Michael, again, in Jerika's piece, she spoke to a former FBI profiler, Mary Ellen O'Toole, who suggested that now investigators will most likely, in her professional experience and opinion, be taking a closer, harder look at Brian Laundrie's parents, specifically as it relates to possible obstruction. The lawyer for the Laundrie family told Jerika, that's poppycock or some term of that nature, that it's simply not true that the Laundries would have had anything to do at all with this. But what are you hearing on the ground, and what are you hearing from your own conversations with legal authorities?
It is quite interesting to consider the fact that their son has been missing for about a month. Originally, they said they had last seen him on what I believe was Tuesday, September 14th, and actually it ended up being Monday, September 13th, or vice versa. The timeline of this is actually peculiar, especially because knowing that your son might be missing and then, seeing them do activities like get their groceries, garden in the back of their home. What I'm hearing from people on the ground here is that there has been nothing but suspicious activity coming from that household since the very beginning, since Gabby Petito was originally a missing person and was considered and filed a missing person on September 11th, and Brian Laundrie's parents, who were about to be her in-laws, did not say anything about her whereabouts. So really, for the timeline from the beginning to where we are right now, which could be the final chapter to a story that has gripped the nation and sent shockwaves throughout this community, even now there is suspicious activity and a lot of unanswered questions, and even unanswered questions that will remain after Brian Laundrie's body is eventually found, or Brian Laundrie is found alive. We really don't know the answer to that right now, because even if he is found, even if these remains are identified and confirmed to be his, will have more unanswered questions than we do answered questions. What happened out in Utah and Wyoming? What escalated in the relationship that led to the homicide of one of the parties in the relationship? How did it get to that point? And what was going through the heart and the minds of everyone involved in the days, the weeks, and now almost months since that happened?
All right, Michael Hudak for us. Excellent reporting, Michael, as always. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.